Hi VC, how are you? Hope you're all well. It's Gordon at I Dig Vinyl here, and I've got a bunch of interesting albums that I hope you will enjoy having a look at. I've called the video, or I'm going to call the video, Around the World in 10 Albums. So, as you might guess from that, basically what I've got here are 10 different albums from 10 different countries, which are scattered all across the globe. It's a fairly eclectic and fairly random bunch of albums. I'd been kind of thinking of doing something like this for a wee while for different reasons. And what I was going to share or show has changed quite a bit just over the past few days. Some of that's because um, I hit a charity shop at the weekend and there was a very unusual album from the Netherlands that I picked up. So I'm definitely going to show that. So yeah, that's one of the reasons. But beyond that, to be honest with you, I keep on checking out the news at the moment, and everything I see it's pretty depressing. I'm fed up watching or listening to news that's divisive. It talks about seems to set people against each other, all kinds of stuff like that. Basically, wherever I look just now, so I'm getting a wee bit fed up with it. And in times like that, it's always good to kind of head into your record collection, but particularly because these are times where you can tell from social media, from the real media, and I can tell from elements of the world outside. There's a lot of divisions being sown. Music's that great cohesive force, isn't it? That brings people together and it doesn't divide. So with that in mind, I wanted to uh, pull out some albums from all across the world. It's a very mixed bag of stuff, I would say, and I'd love it if anybody else thought it might be a decent idea to show off some of their albums from across the globe as well. So I've got 10 albums. It's around the world in 10. I think I might show another 10 another time as well. So I've really enjoyed figuring out what to show, and there was clearly lots of different um, albums that I could have pulled out from different countries that I haven't just yet. So I hope you enjoy the mix. And as I said, it would be pretty great if we could get a bit of a VC thread happening where basically we had country after country with our music represented. Because as I said, music knows no boundaries. Music knows no barriers, and genres definitely jump around, don't they? And that's kind of where part of the fun is to be found. So anyway, on with my choices. So album number one, and where better to go around the world than maybe a train station, which is where Baba Zula's album from 2024 starts. This is Baba Zula and their amazing album from I think it was last November, Istanbul Sokakları, which I believe means Streets of Istanbul. This is um, it's an amazing psych album, which draws all sorts of influences from Turkish folk in terms of the instrumentation, the presentation of it. Believe it's based on, or not even based on. I think these are actually pictures from one of the main guys from the band's father, I believe it might have been, who's done these very evocative drawings of Istanbul. Um, it's an album that I've really enjoyed listening to. It really brings you to a place. They use quite a lot of soundscapes in amongst this. There are kind of long sort of psychedelic jams that are informed by a traditional Turkish instrument, which the name sort of escapes me, but it basically kind of reminiscent of a kind of raga idea. It sort of drones on a particular note, not too many chord changes, and basically as the song progresses, you kind of get worked up into a bit of a frenzy, which is quite incredible. So it's a brilliant album. As I said, there's different soundscapes that bring Istanbul to life. I think some of them were recorded in the 1960s. So you've got train announcers talking about a train leaving Istanbul heading off to Munich. There are sounds of basically the banks of the Bosphorus, which are really interesting. The kind of boats, the sounds of the ships, and then you get much more quieter sections where there are just basically birdsong in the background. what I kind of believe from the lyrics is a lot of it kind of comments on modern day Turkey. It's kind of criticisms of the way that the kind of government's working at the minute over there, which are interesting to kind of consider in the kind of modern lens across the rest of the world as well. But overall, what this album is a brilliant Anatolian sort of psych fest. It's just great music, really well put together, hugely evocative. I've never been to Istanbul before, but when I listen to music like this, basically shut your eyes, you're pretty much there. So next up, just like the train that's leaving Istanbul, it landed in Germany. My next choice is also from Germany, and this is Eberhard Weber's 1976 album Yellow Fields. Beautiful album cover. I love the painting on the front. Eberhard Weber is not an artist that I was familiar with until very, very recently when I picked this up in a big kind of box of delights that I got on eBay. And this album is one that I've enjoyed listening to. It's kind of jazz fusion, I think you would call it, which sounds like one of these kind of catch-all terms. But yeah, Eberhard Weber on bass. All of the musicians involved are absolute maestros at their own particular instruments. It's quite a nice one to sort of chill out to. Pretty evocative of a particular place, but then no place in particular as well, I suppose. I love the percussion of John Christensen, but there's beautiful keyboard playing as well. So yeah, Eberhard Weber, I believe it's a fairly highly regarded album of his on ECM Records, and yeah, enjoyed that one. So that's Germany. Choice number 3, and not straying too far from Germany, in fact, just across the border, but a very different vibe indeed. This was an album that I picked up just on Friday. I was down checking out my local charity shop with that sort of Friday sort of sense of endless optimism. You never know quite what you're going to find. And lo and behold, I spotted this. And just looking at the cover, I thought, yep, this could be interesting. This has got to be interesting. It is Dumar, I believe is the way you might pronounce this. Dumar, a band I'd never heard of at all. When you look at the back of the sleeve here, you can see it's all in Dutch, because Dumar, you may know, but I didn't. Dumar are a band from the Netherlands. And this is really brilliant, sort of ska, quite upbeat, pretty fast ska stuff, as well as really quite interesting kind of reggae, almost dub as well. So it was released in 1980. Reading up on the guys involved, they were very, very popular, I think, around about the time. Almost everything here is sung. It's in Dutch. Musically, it's, I suppose, very very much fits that kind of time period. It's 1980, I think maybe late into 1981. I think it's their second album. But I've never heard any sort of ska sung in Dutch before, and it's really, really enjoyable. So lots of fun. I haven't quite picked up any references to skunk in what I'm listening to at the moment, but the vibe in itself is like the colour scheme. It's very, very bright. Almost all of it in terms of how it's coming out there. So yeah, Dumar from 1980 from the Netherlands. It's their biggest hit. I got it for £2. It was in amongst the sort of Cliff Richard and all the rest of it, all your usual things there. So I'm not sure how that ended up in my local charity shop, but I was delighted to pick it up, put it on with no idea what to expect, and I've been very, very impressed. Heading out of sort of Western Europe, I guess, and I wanted to show and share an album by Nooms. This album is called Shack, which is from 2017, and Nooms are a band that originate from Russia. So the kind of music involved here, they themselves, they're a two-piece at the moment. There certainly have been more involved in the past, but there's a two-piece that sort of drives the band forward and always have, sort of creative heart of the band. They describe themselves as space gaze. which is quite an interesting take on shoegaze and something, kind of otherworldly altogether. Actually, the music in this particular album, it's quite, there's a lot of electronic stuff to it. Some of it's probably in the realms of almost sort of rave, trancey in some ways. Some of it's got a kind of psyche, proggy stuff going on. So some of it's got that, the sort of neo-psych, sort of dreamy vocals, but then the musical, it's kind of mainly sort of electronic based stuff. So really interesting, really enjoyable. The band themselves, as I said, they are from Russia. They kind of, as many artists have from that country, they've effectively exiled themselves for various reasons, and I think they're now based out of Slovenia. Reading into this one, just show you the back of it while I'm blethering on. In around about 2017, before the album was conceived, or maybe it was 2016, I read about I think it was the singer who was arrested by the police, who were very suspicious about a person because of the denim that he was wearing, according to an interview. He was, I believe, under the influence of some kind of psychedelics at the time, and he found himself placed in jail for, I think it was 5 days, which basically changed what happened next, because this is an album that I believe was done whilst he had to have regular drug tests taking place. So although it's very, even looking at the front of it, you might guess it's quite, as I said, psyche, trancey, etc., all of that. It was done completely sober, because of the kind of authorities and their demands of this particular musician. So not long after that, they left Russia, and they remain outside of the country. And I think what's happened there is the musicians that they were with are still in Russia, and Nooms himself, I believe, are a duo now. They tour regularly. I've picked up some of their other albums as well, which I do enjoy. But yeah, wee bit different from Russia. Okay, choice number 5. This is still in Europe, but my last European choice, and I've headed north again. I'm up in Norway now, and this one is Electric Eye and their 5th album, which I do not know how to pronounce, but I'm going to go with Diptid or Diptid, something like that. Apologies around that, my Norwegian is non-existent. Basically, I got this because I have a Fuzz Club record subscription. I don't have it anymore, but I had it throughout last year, and it was a lovely blend of records of the month that I would get. Usually really strong sort of psych, basically from around the world, but this one was different. It's a blend, it says, of cosmic improvisation, ambient minimalism, and experimental psych jazz. Great musicianship, big kind of zoned out improv sort of style stuff. It's evocative of a place, but again, not a specific place, and actually it seems to be something much bigger. It takes you into all sorts of places, I suppose, in your imagination, based around lots of synths, abstract vocals, an amazing church organ, as you might expect, plus loads of other instruments. So Electric Eye are not a band I was particularly familiar with at all. In fact, not at all. But they're a Norwegian, I think mainly considered to be a kind of psych band, and this is a bit different. So yeah, big blend of instruments being played. Everything from your sort of traditional synth and sort of so on like that. But I noticed a thing called an Arturia Microbrute. What on earth is a Microbrute, and how would you play it? So I probably need to check that out. Whatever it is, it sounds intriguing. And my final choice from Europe is Norway and Electric Eye. Leaving Europe behind, thought I'd just cut across the Atlantic, but not to my maybe more obvious destination of the USA. I'm heading further north into wonderful Canada, and just wanted to show this one off. It's Martha and the Muffins, a second album from 1980. I picked it up in that same big box of vinyl that the Eberhard Weber came from, and I really enjoying listening to this. Martha and the Muffins, I have definitely seen them in the VC before, and I know there's plenty of fans of their music out there, but I wasn't at all familiar with them. So brilliant, brilliant album, mega catchy. It's called Trance and Dance. I love the song Trance and Dance actually. I think that's the last one. It's kind of extended, it's about 7 minutes long. It's very groovy and it does make you want to dance in a kind of trance like way. So I can see how they've come up with that. But yeah, very much of the time. Really, really enjoyable band. I love the instrumentation there, the brassy stuff. The organ playing is great, super catchy, upbeat. Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't really heard of them before. So leaving Canada and going south and south and south and south, and going back in time as well. This is probably, I think it's the one from furthest, the sort of oldest release, if you like. This is from Brazil, so my next choice is Brazil, and I wanted to go with this one, which actually the sleeve doesn't really tell the story. The sleeve looks like it's going to be some crazy, very obscure, mad psych album, I guess, and it does look like it will be a brilliant album at that. But that's not quite the music here. The album is Alucinolandia by Zito Rigi and his orchestra, which was released in I think 1969. Just to show you the what's on here, it's actually reminiscent of I would say much earlier in the 60s. It's just stunning, stunning samba, bossa nova. Some of it's pretty funky as well. The opening track in particular is quite a funky number. I think my favourite song on here, if I can find the name, not too sure. Brilliant singer Sonia Santos joins the band for quite a few of the songs. As I said, it's released in 1969, but it's not part of that political movement which is about to sort of blossom, all the Tropicalia stuff. It recalls an earlier time. Very, very enjoyable to listen to. And yeah, it doesn't match up with it's almost like a competition. Imagine what the music's like inside here. But yeah, it sounds more like it's from the earlier 60s. Really, really enjoyable though. Great blend of all that kind of classic Brazilian sound from that sort of time period. So, Alucinolandia, Zito Rigi, I think that's choice number 7 from beautiful Brazil. Cutting across the Atlantic again, but not to Europe, going down south to Africa. And I cannot resist an opportunity to show off a wee bit of Zambian music. So here comes a bit of Zamrock. It's an album that I've noticed I haven't burst the seal on yet. But I've definitely been streaming this one a lot, and this is amazing. Big shout out for this album for anyone who enjoys Zamrock who's maybe not got a hold of it. It's Chrissy Zebi Tembo's album, called I'm Not Made of Iron. Now, as far as I can figure out, this was never released in the 70s. It came out as a record store day edition. I think it was in March this year. I must have picked it up round about then myself. But Chrissy Zebi Tembo is the drummer in the Ngozi family. He had one album that he did release in I think round about 1976, but basically what seemed to be happening is it looks like he had a shot of singing, because it's still Chrissy Zebi Tembo and the Ngozi family, as opposed to the kind of usual Paul Ngozi blasting out everything. So Paul Ngozi still plays guitar. He plays guitar on this one. It's a very kind of simple lineup. There's only 4 musicians involved. In fact, it might even be 3. So Chrissy Zebi Tembo still playing drums, but he's a great singer in his own right. Paul Ngozi's on guitar, and it's Tommy Moale who plays bass. Similar music, I suppose, maybe unsurprisingly to the Ngozi family, but a wee bit different in terms of the singing. Chrissy Zebi Tembo's singing. He's a great singer. Musically, it doesn't quite go so crazy in terms of Paul Ngozi's guitar. A wee bit more restrained, I suppose. Still got that absolute classic sort of blend of Stooges vibe, I would say, in terms of the fuzz, but it's not overly fuzzy, which is no criticism or anything like that, but it's a wee bit more sort of simplistic, I think. This was a promotional only second album, so I don't really know if it got anywhere at all back then, and not sure why. I'd love to know why. The thing with Zamrock is there's a lot of mystery behind the release of some of the records. Paul Ngozi and the Ngozi family had released about 6 albums in 1977 alone. So you could see why this one would have maybe not got much further than just the promotional stage. But it's a great album in its own right. Songs like Mad Matron to kick it off are really great, and probably I would say an absolute classic of Zamrock, I Am Not Made of Iron. So catchy, so cool, so effortless. So this is a great album from Zambia. He was 28 at the time, and they all sort of disappear within a couple of years from then. We know that a lot of the musicians died young, age-related causes and so on. But what happened to Chrissy Zebby Tembo, I'm not too sure. It was a career that it didn't take off, but I would say an album like this shows him at his absolute peak. So Zambia is my next choice, and this brilliant album, I Am Not Made of Iron, from Chrissy and Ngozi family. So staying in Africa but updating things to the present day pretty much. This is an album that was released a few months ago by Femi Kuti. So my country here is Nigeria, and this is a brilliant album, one I've enjoyed a lot. I think it came out in April, something like that, and I've given it quite a lot of heavy rotation, as they say, since then. So Femi Kuti, probably everyone knows, the son of Fela Kuti. He's carved out a hugely successful career in his own right. He's a brilliant musician. And this album, Journey Through Life, is pretty reflective. The name itself sort of gives away. This is one where he's looking back to very personal events that affected his family, him directly back in the 70s, all the way through to sort of present day Nigeria, and unfortunately the sort of ongoing corruption that he would see, and he draws attention to very kind of very openly. In fact, you can see that in the name of the song titles here. So musically, it's pretty upbeat stuff. It's the Afrobeat vibe that kind of cuts through. So it's very danceable. It's a fun listen, I would say. It's an enjoyable listen. But I think the messages, though, that Femi Kuti continues to put out are important ones, and I like that. I like that it's been there through the family line all the way through, and I think music like this these days is pretty important. So yeah, Nigeria, Femi Kuti, Journey Through Life. It came out earlier on this month, and yep, that's my choice number 9, I think. So leaving Africa behind, one last destination. Here we go. Last but definitely not least, and I could have certainly gone to many different destinations, but I chose to visit or show off an album from a place that I've not been to yet, but yeah, hopefully I get a chance to at some stage. It's the fantastic debut album by Banana Gun, all the way from Australia, and released in, I think it was 2020. So Banana Gun's album was one of those amazing debuts. I love a debut album that kind of represents everything that the band's about right from the off. It's like one of those fully formed how good are these guys sort of albums, and I've been listening to it quite a lot recently and sort of thinking to myself how good they actually are as different musicians. So Banana Gun's debut album, which is called The True Story of Banana Gun, is one that I suppose if it was getting put into a particular bit of a record shop, it might be in the sort of neo-psych area, I guess, or something like that. There's a brilliant blend of musicianship on display all the way through. It's very, very funky at times as well. In fact, funnily enough, some of it reminded me of that kind of Femi Kuti's Afrobeat stuff. second track might as well be James Brown when it kind of kicks in at the beginning. Furious wah guitars and things like that. So this is a band that their second album came out in 2024, and I've got to get a hold of it. I've just kind of realised that I need to hear what they did next, and I haven't listened to their second album in too much detail. But this album here is great. It's some of it's pretty sort of sunshiny. Might be good music to put on in a lovely day, but there's a lot more to it than that as well. And I was quite interested just to show the titles there. A couple of tracks from the end, they go from the song Mushroom Bomb into Modern Day Problems, and the two songs just blend together effortlessly. And it is sort of seems to be, I don't know if it's humorously or to what degree it's a kind of more serious take on that sense of the types of things that people worry about, and did worry about in the past and then still do today. So very, very clever, really, really accomplished all the way through. Lovely blend of instruments that make up the sound. There's bits of flute getting played, there's a brassy section to it. Some of it is highly funky. There's brilliant wah guitars through as well. So yeah, a band that I don't think I've listened to this enough, and it was good to dig it out when I was thinking about this little thread. So yeah, from Australia and Banana Gun. Okay, so that's me, VC. I've enjoyed picking out 10 albums around the world, and 10 albums, so 10 countries, as varied as I wanted it to be. Obviously, plenty of other things could have come out, and maybe they will on another one. But I'd like to just encourage anyone else to have a wee shot and share, have a wee dig through your record collection, and maybe celebrate some music from some of the far flung destinations of your shelves, so to speak. I deliberately avoided the UK and the USA because that's where almost all of my stuff probably comes from, or not all of it, but certainly a big chunk of it. So it was nice to have a wee look into other corners of the globe, and I've certainly left plenty of spaces there as well. So if you wanted to jump on and show off a bit of your music from different countries, please do. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free, and it's always great if someone has watched it and takes the time to stick a wee comment in. I really appreciate that. I've enjoyed doing it, and I think I'll sign off just now and listen to some funky music from somewhere on this globe. Cheers.